So I just want to open the meeting and we have apologies from Councillor Skonjacek, Hawkins and Dakey. Any other apologies that anybody has? Declaration of interest? Any declaration of interest? Confirmation of minutes. Somebody happy to move the minutes of the meeting held 5th of December. Councillor Harris and second to Councillor Spencer. All those in favour, raise your hand or say aye. Yeah. Any against? That's carried. Thank you. So it's public question time. We've got questions on notice. Are there? It is a bit echoey. Questions on notice. So then we go to questions without notice. Any questions without notice? No? No questions? Ooh. Maybe just get rid of that echoey in there. Where are we? Then we move on to notice of motion, don't we? Yep. So we have notice of motion. So first of 5.1, Mr. Robin Smith.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Does this get put as a motion? Do I speak to it?
You could put the motion. If you get a seconder, then you can speak to it.
All right. I'd like to put the motion, and I believe Jeanette Smith, my wife, would second the motion.
Thank you. Now you may speak to it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
How long have we got?
This is...
2 minutes? It's 2 minutes, I think, this is the time.
Is it? Thank you. We do have a conflict. Essentially, this is about cycling through them all. This is not about cyclists as we know them. This is a problem with cyclists who aren't there to commute, as the officer would suggest is the intended purpose of allowing cyclists to ride through them all. It's a problem with people who cycle on BMXs and ride around them all over the statues and the furniture at 5 o'clock with impunity. There aren't a lot of rules about what they can and can't do. And unfortunately, one of the things they've discovered that you can do is to bounce the front wheel of a bicycle on a shop door and set off the alarm, and they'll do that to a number of shops. If it were genuine cyclists that were travelling through, then they could easily dismount and jump back on 100 yards up the road. So it's not something that I think would particularly disadvantage those true cyclists who wouldn't be that greatly disadvantaged. Also, the hours don't quite line up. The current hours, what the office has written here, aren't actually what's there. There is no symbol in the mall for no cycling at any time. There is just a one-line entry on a placard sign. It's about 2.5 metres in the air. It's very hard to see. So it's virtually impossible for police to ever enforce that rule because it's really not well advertised as it is. So I put that. Thank you.
Thank you. The seconder wish to speak? Wish to speak? No? No? Anyone to speak against it? Or speak it up? Anyone else wish to speak? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? 1, 2, 3, I don't know, 5. That's lost. Thank you. Move on to 5.2, installation of road signage.
This, Mr. Mayor, since viewing the officer's comments on the bottom and seeing the accidents that have been since this motion was written, I'm not going to put this up because I don't believe the chevrons are enough to fix the problem, so I'm going to let it lie, if I may.
Oh, this motion?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to 5.3 then. So 5.3.
I'd put that motion in my name, Mr. Mayor. Again, I believe my wife would second it.
Thank you. It's moved and seconded. You may speak. Thank you.
This, and I don't want to start off on the wrong foot. I do appreciate that an officer has considered this and given a comment, but I have spoken here before in this very room about the consultation process, which included the design, development, implementation and build on this, and I choose not to go there today, but I think I've said enough about it that I can safely say that it wasn't something that was anointed by the stores. This giant seating, more like a bandstand in the mall, it is and always has been a problem that attracts antisocial behaviour. It was actually the council that taught us, the traders in groups, to understand about youth and antisocial behaviour and the drivers of it. And you've actually schooled us in meetings in this building what are drivers of antisocial behaviour. You spent a lot of money on it. Andrew Smith, the former Parks and Recreation Manager, held many sessions, and we recognise it. We see the problem. It's a verifiable problem. The antisocial behaviour, particularly on the West End, this large seating structure, is a problem. If anyone was to request proof, that there's proof there, the groups, the behaviour, the police attendance, a lot of it's very little police can do about it, but it does bring down the mall, which had an unfortunate start with the City Heart refurb. It didn't get well received, and this certainly only goes to prove that there are still latent problems with the design. So there are modifications that could be done, and I believe this, certainly I do feel that I let down some of the traders because the petition they signed was for both of them, but I do recognise that the one in the West End is more of an attractor of antisocial behaviour than the one outside Maya. So I would put this motion and ask you to consider what's contained therein. Thank you.
Thank you. The seconder wish to speak? Anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Harris with a question.
Yeah, a question perhaps for Mr Smith or otherwise. I didn't make it down to the eastern end. I looked at the western end one. No, sorry, the other way around. I looked at the eastern end one, not the western end one. Is it the same or is it higher?
Of antisocial behaviour or structure?
The structure.
I think
they're both the same.
Both the same.
Okay, right.
Any other questions? Councillor Spencer?
What would you propose as seating and whatever to change it? What the difference? How can we make it better?
Thank you for that. I would, if you asked me, the lowest cost with the highest achievement would be to remove the top two layers. It's a three-layer structure, so you have a turret on the top, but there is also a top deck, which essentially is a bandstand. And the problem is that the youth get on the top middle deck and the top crown, but if you were to remove those two seating structures from the top and just leave the lowest level of seating, I believe that would, essentially that would turn it into just normal seating, which is what the rest of the mall is. But those two raised levels are the thing that I believe would be effective to do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mackenzie?
Thanks, Mayor. I rise to speak against the motion, but not so much the intent of the motion. I just really think that we have a number of things going on currently with the Birchall's EOI and the potential development of the bus interchange, and I think a number of initiatives being looked at for the mall anyway. And in my view, I'd just like to take the comments made by Mr Smith on notice as part of our overall review when we're looking through things that we can do to improve the mall.
Thank you. Any other comments? Do you wish to close, Mr Smith?
Well, those were helpful comments, but the only thing I would say in response is that it's proven, it's been there a long time. We've seen the effect of the raised structure and how that it seems to have an effect of allowing the kids to feel somehow that they're raised and somehow out of the reach of normal behaviour because they're higher up. I don't know why being in the top of a castle makes them feel different from being down on the same level, but there is an effect there, and if you were to ask me to prove it, I could do that in time, but I think it's well known if you spoke to the traders that have been there long enough, they would see that it's that it is an issue. And the fact I got 70 or 80% of them all traders. I mean, that's unprecedented. I don't think we've ever had a petition for anything that we've ever managed to get traders to agree on. I don't think I've ever heard of it before. So that speaks for itself. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll put that motion. Those in favour, please raise your hand. Those against? That's carried. Thank you. So we move to 5.4, CBD parking. Mr. Smith, you wish to speak to it?
I put, again, Mr Mayor, the motion, if I may, and my wife, I believe, would
Second it. Thank you.
There were a few documents that didn't seem to appear in the agenda that were sent with this item, so it really matters not so much. However, it does go to show the length of time that we have been looking at this, or I have been raising the issue of Sunday popularity, if you like. I mean, I think the words I've used, I stood there and I said something about we're our own worst enemy because we, the staff, will come to work, we park there at 10 o'clock, we're there all day long, and you can't blame us for doing it. You can ask the staff to park 5 blocks out, but they're unlikely to do it because unless everyone did it, it's sort of... So there's two parts to this. First, that the council provides more loading zones, and we do have a lot of Coles and Woolworths now, delivering all across town to lots of shops for all sorts of reasons. They do have trouble getting in. Coles and Woolworths have the vans running around. I don't know where they park. I know they just drive around until they find a space. It's very difficult for them. So that's the loading zones, which is part one. Part two is the general parking spaces, which are, again, very popular. Now, I have had councillors in a meeting ask me for the solution, but I don't believe it's about revenue, and revenue is an issue. It can be controlled with time. So revenue doesn't have to be the driver for this. It can be a timed issue, and council, I'm only asking for them to look at the opportunities. I'm sure there's more that can be done. I think just filling up every CBD street and having it full all day is low fruit. It's a valuable asset. I'm not saying council has to tax or charge or rate for it, but it should be managed better. Now, the officer does, and I appreciate that, talk of what's coming in the future. There's always something coming in the future, but it might not necessarily cover that. There's always going to be another report. There's always going to be something coming along in the future that council can say, let's wait for. But with respect, I would ask, this is something that's certainly timely now, can stand on its own to be considered.
Thank you. And the seconder doesn't want to speak. Any other question? Councillor McKenzie?
More statement, I just didn't have no conflict of interest with my parking interests in Launceston.
You have got a conflict of interest. You didn't say that in the beginning. It's noted now. Thank you. A question from Councillor Harris?
A question, if I can. Just to understand the motion, you just want more loading zones available on Sunday. So, do I take it that a loading zone is only Monday to Saturday, and therefore free for someone to park on Sunday, and you want that to be extended to 7 days? Yes. Or are you saying you want more loading zones per se in the CBD?
More loading zones that would be available, yes, because as it is, they do revert to uncontrolled parking. Right. Certainly after hours, and certainly that Sunday, when without signage, they revert to free and open use, yes.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? I'll put the motion. Those in favour, please raise your hand. Those against? Yeah, that's carried. Thank you. We move on to 6.1, City of Launceston Annual Reports. Mr CEO.
Thanks, Mayor. Is that speaker turned on?
I don't mind.
Thanks, Mayor. So, look, I've got a brief presentation just to explain what we've achieved through the year. Obviously, it's outlined in the annual report, but there are a few things that I do want to touch on. One of them is what we started with this year, is the organisational alignment project. So this was the largest reform or restructure of our organisation since amalgamation, and we're now structured as 3 different networks of the council that work together. So the organisational service network is our internally focused network, our infrastructure and assets is our infrastructure, and obviously the community in place focuses on our external services and the creative arts and cultural services on our cultural needs. We're also moving towards becoming more of an agile organisation. A large part of our structure is around ensuring that our people will work seamlessly across the networks and within the network. So we've moved away from traditional hierarchical approaches to having discrete departments and directorates, and now work as more networks of teams. Leadership has been spread throughout the organisation down to managers and team leaders, and we are now achieving certainly a significantly a greater level of leadership across the organisation. So in the first 12 months, I've been really happy with the reform and the impacts that it's having on the organisation. And it's probably borne out in terms of the culture of our organisation. So for some time, we've been focusing on developing the positive and constructive culture that we want our organisation to have, and we can see there in terms of where we are currently at, if we consider the blue colour to be the culture that we are seeking, so that is the constructive, the proactive, the affiliate style of culture that we want, and the assessment that we did in 2018 showed that we're more in the sort of aggressive defensive red style and the passive defensive green style of culture, as opposed to the constructive style of the blue. So we are aspiring to be more of a blue culture. Our teams have recently completed some internal self-assessment work ahead of a broader cultural review that we'll do in the next financial year. And you can see there, in terms of the teams assessing themselves, that there's a lot more blue, a lot more constructive style of behaviour, of culture, of thinking that's occurring in our workplace. So it's good to see that we're making good positive signs, but certainly in what has been a very difficult year, that the culture of this organisation is continuing to head down the constructive style that we're all seeking. The other large part of this last financial year has been COVID-19, and particularly our management of, from a council perspective, and then the assistance that we can provide in the recovery of the pandemic. Certainly this council provided a community care and recovery package, which has now amounted to some $10 million to be able to deliver assistance to our community, and that included, a 6-month rate remission period for businesses, 0% pay, 0% rate rise for this financial year. We introduced an interim rates and charges hardship policy. We undertook innovation grants and currently rolling out the circular economy grants. We provided fee relief to the community, and we've also engaged in an accelerated capital works program. So obviously we knew with the COVID community care and recovery package that it would come at a cost, and it did, as did the management of the COVID-19 pandemic. So financially, the council recorded an underlying deficit of $7.2 million this year, and that was primarily as a result of the costs associated with the pandemic. So the council incurred pandemic costs of $3.5 million, and we also had revenue loss of around $2.5 million. From a decline in parking, from venue hire, from the Launceston Leisure and Aquatic Centre, from UTAS Stadium, and also from QV Mag. In addition to that loss of revenue, we also didn't receive any dividend payment from our ownership stake in Taswater, which is $1.3 million, and nor also in the the airport, which we own 10%, and we also had a 2.8% cost relating to an increase in our provision for our waste cell rehabilitation at the Launceston Waste Centre. Overall, however, we recorded an operational surplus of 10.8 million, but that was due largely to the capital contributions, which included the impact of a road asset swap with the Tasmanian government, where we transferred out $11.3 million worth of roads, so the couplet to Taswater, and received $24.7 million worth of road in return. Obviously, in preparing the community care and recovery package, we needed to understand the sustainability of the council, our ability to be able to manage as an organisation and to recover ourselves financially from the pandemic. What we see here is the long-term finance plan recovery process for our council, which shows us returning to surplus in 24-25. You will see in the 22-23 year, we are putting resources into the River Health Action Plan to basically to have the council's role in terms of improving the health of the Tamar River. So that management obviously has deferred our return to surplus until that 24-25 financial year, but you can see thereafter that the council is certainly going to be able to return to steady and consistent surpluses that we're aspiring to. I won't touch on the full breadth of what we've completed this year, because I've got a small presentation to cover that. But in terms of the Launceston City deal, which is one of our strong strategic focuses as a council, in this last year we formally agreed to a 5-year extension of the deal, which still needs to be populated in terms of what the actions and the initiatives that will entail. So that will happen over the course of the next year. We refined the River Health Action Plan, so we're now providing it's over $130 million investment that's going to deliver 13 key projects to improve the quality of the water quality of the Canamalooka Tamar estuary, and the council of that 130 million is providing 11 million to see that delivered. The draft cultural strategy was completed, as well as the My Place, My Future plan, which was successfully launched in the financial year. So in terms of a brief summary of the year in review, we've put together a clip which I'll run right now.
The financial year has been challenging on many levels, but transformative projects have continued to take shape across Launceston. To the delight of parents and children across the municipality, the much anticipated Riverbend Park opened to the public in August 2019. This park represents several years' work by the City of Launceston and its funding partners, the state and federal governments. As Tasmania's newest and best all abilities playground, Riverbend Park has transformed a former industrial site into one of northern Tasmania's most well-utilised recreational areas. During the year, the council also completed a reconstruction of the playing surface at UTAS Stadium, committed to phasing out single-use plastics, declared a climate emergency, and opened the doors to a redeveloped Macquarie House. We continued our Tomorrow Together community engagement program to better understand the aspirations and needs of our community, exploring themes like sustainability and the economy. We continued our collaboration with communities in our northern suburbs, expanding our ABCDE Learning Site initiative to Mowbray and releasing the My Place, My Future plan. In order to understand future challenges, we undertook the Shopping in the City report, examining retail challenges and opportunities in our CBD. We finalised a sediment rating report, which studied the effectiveness of a 5-year trial of raking in the Canamalooka Tamar estuary. And we also refined the Tamar River Health Action Plan to deliver more than $130 million in funding across 13 projects aimed at improving waterway health. During the year, the council carried out 16 fuel reduction burns at various locations across the municipality, designed to reduce fuel loads in parks and reserves. We also revised and updated our dog management policy, paving the way for the state's first dedicated greyhound off-leash area. We undertook a road and footpath assessment project using new technologies to identify problems and aid the prioritisation of future works. The City of Launceston also announced plans for the redevelopment of the former Birchall's building and the construction of a dedicated Launceston bus interchange in our CBD. Projects which will improve connectivity and reimagine the way we use our city. The City of Launceston approved planning applications worth more than $215 million across 673 separate applications in the 2019-20 financial year. This followed the approval of 646 planning applications worth $211.2 million in the 2018-19 financial year, and the approval of 658 planning applications worth $209.6 million in the 2017-18 financial year. However, there's no doubt the year was dominated by the COVID-19 pandemic, which emerged in early 2020 and which forced many businesses to temporarily close their doors. In response, the City of Launceston developed its $10 million Community Care and Recovery Package, the largest local government response in Tasmania, designed to assist businesses to adapt to new modes of trade. This package of rates relief and small business support was twinned with a 5-year, $40 million accelerated capital works program to continue to spur economic activity and generate employment opportunities in the region. While many challenges still lay ahead, the City of Launceston will continue to work constructively and collaboratively with the people of Northern Tasmania to make Launceston one of the world's great regional cities.
Yeah, Luke does a great job with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Is somebody happy to move that the recommendation, it's on the screen, is a recommendation we want moved? Moved Councillor Soward, seconded Councillor Harris. Do you wish to speak to it at all? No? Councillor Harris, no? Anyone wish to speak to it? No? I'll just say on behalf of the ratepayers, actually, I think, and the councillor, to you, CEO, and to all our staff, thank you very much for the work that you've done in a very difficult year. It's been extremely challenging, but I think the way the council staff's worked has been incredible. So to yourself and to all the team, thank you very much. It is appreciated, and you've done an amazing job. So it's well should be noted. I think if we could note that, it'd be good. So I'll put the motion. Those in anyone want to speak against? I did ask. Anyway, all those in favour, please raise your hand. And that is all councillors present. That is carried. We'll close the meeting. Thank you.